Okay, Shalom, Shalom, Kum Yasha'Allah, Koloyam La Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai Bahashim, Kahakadash, double honors to our apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule well, and that by the Spirit taught us this beautiful truth, and just want to say the water to all the H.I.M and Akhwaf that's out here sincerely keeping the laws, the statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai to the best of their ability. This is Yah Hanan the Waf, just coming at you with another quick lesson, praying that it's edifying by the Spirit. I wanted to touch on this article in The Guardian. And if you're familiar with this guy right here, it's Louis Gates Jr. He does that show where, people go on, a lot of the celebrities, and they've traced their roots all the way back to the 1800s and 1700s or further, whatever, amount of time period that they can trace back to, find out their ancestors, see who they're from. A lot of them shows, you know what I'm saying, you'll see a lot of people, they were descendants of slaves. Some of them, there's some of the so-called white people that are on there. They were, their family members were slave owners, and they sit there and look stupid as hell as if it's not possible. But anyway, I wanted to go off into some of this article. I don't want to get it all. I'm going to kind of skip through a lot of this. But basically, the first beginning part of it is this guy, I guess him meeting Louis Gates Jr. at a museum one time about 25 years or so ago. And I guess they, kept a friendship or some ties together for the 24 years it says here, but I wanted to get straight to the point. Now he because he did go off into the fact that when he first got into it, I guess his show was a little unpopular amongst the so-called blacks because he mentioned that Africans had something to do with the Atlantic slave trade, which they did. But what he's not explaining is those so-called Africans are Hamites and that we are Shemites. And this guy's a Harvard, I think it's a Harvard professor. I think he went to Harvard. Let me see here. If I'm not mistaken, he did go to Harvard. Yep. He went to Harvard. He was a Harvard professor, actually. TV presenter. Okay. But like I said again, he said he got into quite a bit of trouble, I guess, at the beginning times when he first started, because I guess the so-called blacks was kind of making it seem like he's trying to let the so-called whites off the hook for what they done. But like I said again, for him to be a Harvard professor and not know that there's a difference between Africans and actual Negroes in America, then that's it doesn't surprise me, because there's a lot of so-called smart people here, and they get the education of the so-called white man, and they just run with his books, and they just run with his what he said as far as his curriculum, and they just don't have no other sense other than that. Okay, but anyway, I wanted to get to a point of his granddaughter, right? I'm just gonna start here. Start right here is a good spot right here. So he's speaking to this guy on Zoom. And I guess I think they got a family reunion or something like that going on. But anyway, let's just get into some of the article. This guy, okay, so it's this guy that's speaking, basically. It says, I'm speaking to Gates over Zoom. I'm in uncharacteristically rainy Los Angeles. He's in sunny Miami. As we speak, he turns his laptop screen around, attempting to goad me successfully into jealousy at the sight of blue skies and serene oceans from the seaside condo. He is in Florida for his family wedding. Okay, all right, that's what it was. And our call is periodically interrupted by good-natured family members coming in and out, and people mill around preparing for the big day. Family is important to Gates. His new book, The Black Box, Writing the Race, opens with the story of his grandchild, Ellie, who inspired the book's title. So this is the point that I wanted to get into. So his grandchild, Ellie, right? Born recently to Gates' daughter, who is mixed race, who he's saying is mixed race, because I'm not sure. Gates may have a so-called white wife, which she would still be an Israelite if he's a so-called black man, which a lot of these people that look like this, a lot of them are tares. A lot of them they look like they're so-called black people, but they could be a so-called white man, which are Edomites or Esau, Edom, you know. And the scriptures goes off into the wheat and the tares, which if you've ever looked up wheat or tares on Google, they look just alike until you harvest them. You know, they kind of grow up, they look exactly the same until they get all the way to the maturity of their height, and then that's when you can tell, okay, that's wheat, and that's how you can tell that that's tares, you know. And the scriptures talks about how the tares will be bundled up to be burned, and the wheat will be bundled up to go into the Lord's garden. Into the Lord's barn, which is a parable, you know, that's written, you know, as far as the enemy basically done slipped into our heritage, so to speak. You know, they looking like us, but they're not actually us because we have a different spirit. And you are what your dad is, and that's why I wanted to go into this portion of the article. Okay, so it says, born recently to Gates' daughter, who is mixed race, which there's no such thing as mixed race. Your seed line goes by your dad, which we're going to get the scriptures on that. And his son-in-law, who is white. See? There's no such thing as white people. The so-called white race, their biblical nationality is they're Esau, Edom. They're Edomites. They're red, pinkish to reddish in color. They're not actually white. They're not walking around out here looking like a glass of milk. That is a social construct that they came up with. Okay, but it says, his son-in-law, who is white, Ellie, which is the granddaughter, or his granddaughter, will test about 87.5% European when she spits in the test tube. No, she's not gonna be 87.5% European. She's gonna be 100% so-called white, which she's a damn Edomite, and she's going into slavery in the kingdom. Gates writes, adding that she looks like an adorable little white girl, and yet when Ellie was born, Gates' priority, he reveals, was to make sure her parents register as a black child. Well, okay, if some of that little color start to kick in and she got that kinky ass hair, she's not going to be able to do nothing but represent herself as a Tracy Ellis Ross, or like one of the Maury twins, or, you know, a Jussie Smollett, or, those are all Edomites. They look like us, but they're not our people. Because your seed line goes to your dad. And those, like the Maury twins, Tracy Ellis Ross, those Smollett people, Lenny Kravitz, so on and so forth, those are Edomites. Their fathers are white. So that makes them white. Or, I'm saying so-called white, because they're actually pinkish to reddish in color. But it says, adding, she looks like an adorable little white girl, and yet when Ellie was born, Gates' priority, he reveals, was to make sure her parents register as a black child, ticking the black box on the form, stating her race at birth. And because of that arbitrary practice, a brilliant, beautiful little white presenting female will be destined throughout her life to face the challenge of proving that she is black. No, she's not. She's a damn Edomite, and she's going into slavery right along with her dad, and right along with her grandmama, if your wife is a so-called white woman, which I didn't look into, which I would like to see too. I really would like to check into that, but let me see real quick. Let's just check. Okay, so it says that he's married to a Cuban-born historian. Okay, so she could be an Israelite as well, you know what I'm saying, from the Northern Kingdom. You see? Let's see here. I mean, because it's not a look thing. We don't go by looks, you know what I'm saying? We go by, if these scriptures resonate with your spirit, then you could be an Israelite. It don't make no difference what you look like. But we're going by what he's saying. If his son-in-law is really a so-called white man, then his granddaughter that he's talking about, this little girl Ellie, she's a so-called white woman, and she's an Edomite. And when things all come to a head, she's going into slavery according to Revelation 13 and verse 10, like the rest of the Edomites. And the Lord is going to separate those wheat from the tares, because there are people that's dark as shit out here that are actually so-called white people, because they come from the seed line and bloodline of a so-called white man. There's plenty of them running around out here. And the only way you can really tell is like their spirit. If you're in the spirit, you can pick up on them, you know what I'm saying? Or if you have that gift of discerning the spirit, right? But I wanted to see if the mom was a so-called white woman, but it's saying that she is. They live in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Her name is Marielle Iglesias Utset. So let's see if we can get a little bit of history on her, because she could be an Israelite from one of the northern tribes. Okay, this is her right here. Cultural history of Cuba. Okay, So she's into that visiting research scholar at Latino American Research Institute. She might. Hey, I'm thinking she might be Jake though. Yeah, she's into that. She's into that thing though. Yeah, I think she might be a Jake. I think she's an Israelite. Okay, but anyway, let's go back to the article. That's a lot. Let's go back to the article. It's just always interesting to see, because I'm trying to see how. Okay, so the son-in-law, of course, if he's really, like I said, a so-called white guy, he's an Edomite, and that little girl is an Edomite, and he's trying to press the parents basically to put her down and check her as a black, so-called black chick on the box or whatever. But he's saying that she's 87.5% so-called white, but really in reality she's 100%, even though she may have that little kinky hair and that dark color. But let's get a little further into it. We'll grab the scriptures. It's not going to be a long lesson. It says, any discomfort flowing from this, both Gates' decision and his perception of it, is deliberately intended as a commentary on the discomfort of race itself. How can race not be contradictory, Gates suggests, when it was constructed in service of racism and yet has been alchemized into a cultural identity celebrated by those most oppressed by it, right? Now, another thing in this article that caught my eye was the reason why I wanted to get into it is that I think he said something to the extent of everyone is mixed, and not everyone is mixed. Your seed line goes by your dad. Though you may look like somebody else or another nation, that doesn't it has absolutely nothing to do with your seed line. Ethnicity goes through your father. Your pedigree goes through your father. Can't say it enough, man. That's a stumbling block. That's especially in Western society, especially in the Americas, because the so-called white man, he's the one that placed that biracial label out there, mixed label, multiracial and all this other different stuff. And those terms are not that old. These are terms that wasn't used, especially in the Bible, at all. You was just simply what your dad was. It says the black box applies this analysis. No, let me see. He says, imagine my surprise when I received my first DNA results and I am 49% white, which he could easily be a tear, man, because there's people out here that look like that's actually so-called white people. It said, and he kind of got that feel of it too, but I can't say, It says the black box applies this analysis to the lives of famous African Americans. The poet Phyllis Wheatley, an enslaved young woman who was required to prove to white observers that she was capable of writing the poetry she so elegantly composed. The abolitionist Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass is a white man. He's a so-called white guy too. His mom was raped by a so-called white man. And that's one of those characters that they push on you during Black History Month, as if he's a so-called black man, when really in reality he was a damn cracker, man. He just had that kinky ass hair, and caught that color. But he's a so-called white man. Go into it. You can look him up. It says who constructed parental relationships. The reality being that he knew little of either his mother or father, to refute ideas prevalent at the time that if a black person was intellectual, that was because of white parentage. The history of what black Americans have both been called and call themselves, encompassing a fascinating and ongoing debate about the uses of Negro, colored, African American, and black. And that's going off into Deuteronomy chapter 28, where it says that we will be called bywords. All those are bywords. Negro is a byword. Colored is a byword. African American is a byword. Black is a byword. Hispanic, Native American, Latinos, Dominicans, Haitians, Jamaicans, Honduran, all those are bywords. We're Israelites. That's who we are. All these other names that they're calling us, those are bywords. And that goes off into Deuteronomy chapter 28, where it actually talks about we will be called these things. We will be called everything except for who we really are. And that's a part of the curses. Matter of fact, let me see if we can go in here. I'll just grab that up. Yeah, that's a byword, man. Deuteronomy 28 and 37. It says, and thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. See, that's one of those curses, because wherever we are, we're being called everything except for who we are. All these nations got some type of negative connotation towards you. I don't care if you're in Japan, you can be in China, you can even these Africans, these Hamites. They even got a somewhat of a nigger type of connotation toward, or whatever you are. They got names for you. Everything except for an Israelite. They got all these nations got a racist name against you as a people. That's a part of the curses. Okay, it says a scholarly passion for this contrariness has become something of a trademark for Gates. When the humanity of African Americans was questioned, they fought back by producing art and literature that their lives departed on, he tells me. They accepted the premise that there was a place in what W.E.B. Du Bois called the kingdom of culture for them as well, resurrecting the tradition, explicating it, that it's my life work. That work began far away from Harvard in a working class black family in the hills of West Virginia. Gates' father had two jobs, one at a paper mill and another as a janitor. His mother was a homekeeper and later a cleaner for the white family. After attending a local public school, Gates obtained an undergraduate place, at Yale, in 1969. So he went to some pretty prominent schools, but that shit don't mean nothing if you don't know these scriptures. Although proudly black, the family vaguely knew it, had white ancestry, particularly through Gates' paternal grandfather. There we go. He could be a tear. My grandfather looked so white, we called him Casper. After Casper the Friendly Ghost, Gates laughs. I mean, his skin was translucent. Gates had thought one ancestor, his paternal great-great-grandfather, had been white, but when he tested DNA, he discovered a different picture. Okay, all right. Imagine my surprise when I received my first DNA results, and I'm 49% white, he explains. And we don't go by these DNA tests of the so-called white man. You can't go by what this. You can't trust what Esau's putting out here. They'll even tell you that a lot of that shit is just for entertainment, so to speak. It's not. None of that shit is correct, man. Only the Lord knows the spirits, man. It says, imagine my surprise when I received my first DNA results and I'm 49% white, he exclaims. What that means is that half of my ancestry on my family tree for the last 500 years were white and the other half were black, and that was an amazing lesson to me. So what does that mean about identity? It means that I was socially constructed as a Negro American when I was born in 1950, but my heritage genetically is enormously complicated. This discovery set Gates on a path that has become perhaps the dominant part of his legacy as the host of popular PBS show Finding Your Roots, in which he leads other prominent Americans of all racial backgrounds, figures like Oprah, Julia Roberts, Kerry Washington, and Quincy Jones, on a similar journey through DNA testing and genealogy in which they trace their family tree. I have never tested an African American who didn't have white ancestry, Gates says, and that's quite remarkable to me. Paradoxically, these DNA tests deconstruct the racial insensualism we've inherited from the Enlightenment, because they show that we are all mixed, he continues. No, we're not all mixed. See? And that just shows you that a person that went to Yale, went to Harvard, and all these different places, still dumb as hell. I mean, because it's common sense that your seed line goes to your dad. But in the American curriculum, they teach you that your mom, she has, just as much as to do with who you are as your father. Now, you get traits from your mom, you know what I'm saying? You might get her hair, you might get her eyes, you might get her skin color, you might get her nose, you might get her lips. You might look completely like her altogether. But the seed is still of that man, because the sperm cells that are swimming within the man's nutsack are already kids to begin with. And the woman is just earth. The seed just needs to be planted and needs to, to be nurtured for the 9 months of the plant to come forth. The plant is already in the man. The seed is already there. See? Okay, so he says, he continues, it's a mode of calling those categories into question, showing scientifically that they were fictions and freeing us from the discourse that sought to imprison us in the black box, the white box, the Native American box. And see, all those are social constructs. See, because the Native Americans, they're Israelites too. They're just from the tribe of Gad. You so-called blacks, you're from the tribe of Judah. Our forefather Jacob, which his name was changed to Israel or Yasha'Allah in the Hebrew tongue, he had 12 sons. All of us come from those 12 sons. Now, the so-called white man, on the other hand, he comes from Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. We come from Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See? Now, are we related to them? Of course, we're related to them. But the Lord separated us, and he said that we would be two separate people, two separate nations. One nation will be stronger than the other. So we're not the same people. You know what I'm saying? And the Lord gave us a different spirit. And he also gave us the blessing, the promise. You know what I'm saying? So this is Esau's world right now. He's living in his kingdom right now. And his kingdom is slowly falling right now, and actually fastly falling. And it's falling right now, and then we'll go into our kingdom. But when we go into our kingdom, everybody's going to know who they are. There's not going to be any more of these Americans, Germans, Italians, French. No, it's not. Those names are going to be eradicated. These people are going to be known by the nation that they truly come from. That comes from Noah's sons, H.I.M, Ham, Japheth. One of the 18 nations. They're going to go by their biblical nationality. They're going to be called Moabites, Ammonites, or in the Hebrew tongue, rather. You know, Elamites, Ishmaelites. You know, they're going to be called by who they really are. It's not going to be no more Africans. No more. You're not going to hear no more. That's not going to be in our kingdom. No one's going to be in our kingdom checking off the box that, you know what I'm saying, I'm Dominican. No, that shit is not going to fly in our kingdom, man. We're going to know exactly who's who. Right? Because first off, we're going to have new bodies. We're going to have a new brain set, because the law, statutes, and commandments are going to be written on our minds and our hearts. We're going to be I can't even imagine the type of like something out of this world, because we're going to see the Lord as he is. We're going to be beyond what you can earthly imagine, man. And everybody's going to know that we're Israelites. There's not going to be no more well, he might be, let me check him out, let me read the spirit. No, we're going to know. Everybody's going to know who they are, man. Okay, so it says, the tightrope Gates walks lies in rejecting blackness as a racial category, which and that's right, because black is not a racial category, while embracing it as a cultural tradition. His most recent PBS documentary series, Gospel, which relays the original story of gospel music, is perhaps my favorite work of his, celebrating both the heartbreaking beauty of black spiritual tradition in America and its seismic impact on global culture. When I share my emotions, okay, a lot of this, we can just get past. I just wanted to get the points. Because it's quite a bit of a story. I wanted to just get the points. Because you see what it is. He's basically saying that we're all mixed. And that, you know what I'm saying, of course, his granddaughter, he wants her to be our check. How you 87? How you, even from your perspective, if she's 87.5% white to you, why would you have her, why would you want them to check off a black box? You see what I'm saying? But anyway, let's just get to the point of the matter. Because this is, it's a real stumbling block amongst our people. Because, and for newcomers that's coming into this truth, look, man, there's no such thing as biracial mix and all that shit. You are exactly what your dad is. And all Hebrew Israelites are not going to be all chocolate, and looking like, fucking Mars Chestnut or somebody, or, Wesley Snipes or somebody, or Viola Davis. No, all Israelites are not going to look like that. There are Israelites that's out here that look like fucking Jackie Chan. It's Israelites out here, hell, that look like Donald Trump. Straight look like so-called white men. So it's not a color thing. Like I said, again, that seed line goes through your father. And because we've been mingled, or we've been, enslaved and scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, our men have mingled with the women of these other nations. And as time has gone on, generation to generation, we've lost color. We've lost look. But it doesn't make no difference. If the man has a son, and that son has a son, and that son has a son, and that son has a son, so on and so forth, that's generation to generation being passed on through men. Not women, man. It don't have anything to do with women like that. Because a man, when he has a son and he takes on his dad's last name, then he has that last name forever. But if he have a daughter, his daughter will have his last name until she gets married. And then she carries on the last name of the man that she marries. See? So it always goes through the man. And see, these Americans, or the so-called white man, he flips everything upside down. See, everything that the scripture says, he goes against. The scriptures is saying that your seed line goes through your dad. This clown is telling you that. In a lot of cases, and those Israelis over there, they'll tell you that your seed line goes through your mama. So they flip things upside down. They're not giving you the total truth of what the scripture says. And that's why we go into the scriptures. It's simple. But let me just get numbers. I like to get the first 2 verses or so, or 3 verses or so, and then we can jump to verse 18 to get the point. But it says, Numbers 1:1, and the Lord Yahweh spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation of the first day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, so this is when they came out of Egypt, the 2nd year. Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, and the number of their names, every male by their poll. That's how we do it. We go by the house of our fathers. We go by the males in our family. Now, if these other nations want to go and say, hey, well, we do it both ways, the mom and the dad, you know, or through the mom, that's on them. Let them, because they got false ass gods anyway, and they whole setup is false. They eat abominable shit. They wasn't given no law, statutes, and commandments, and they don't know. They don't have what we have to begin with. This is not for them. But as far as us, the Israelites, so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, our ancestry and seed line goes through our fathers, not our moms. And like I said again, do we get features from our moms? Yeah, we get features from our mom. But that's all got to do with the ground. You know, that's all got to do with the ground that you planted the seed in. If she's short, you're going to, you know, it's a chance you can be short. If she's tall, there's a chance that you can be tall. If she got, because hell, a so-called black man can get with a white woman. She can have green eyes. The baby can come out looking like a so-called white baby with green eyes, but still it's going to be an Israelite. Like I said again, yeah, you could pick up on some of the traits of your mom, but you're still what your dad is. Okay, so again, let me get that second verse back again. Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel, after their families, by the house of their fathers, and with the number of their names, every male by their poll. See that? It says, after the household of the fathers, not the household of the mothers. Every male by their poll, not every female by their poll. And when you go through the genealogy of Matthew chapter 1, you go through the Lord's genealogy, our Lord and Savior, which the world ignorantly calls Jesus, but his name is Yahweh. All you're going to see is the men begot the men. Now, in certain sections, it'll mention the wife of that man, but still it's going to mention the man that begot the man, you know, such and such begot such and such. You know, all his grandfathers, great-grandfathers, great-great-grandfathers, great-great-great-great-great. That's the lineage. And that's all through the Old Testament. Here and there, you'll see a woman's name, but this is it's pretty much overall, I got to say at least 98 to 99% of the scriptures, it's all about men. See, you'll have the book of Ruth, but really what the book of Ruth is going into is the lineage of our Lord Yahweh through Boaz, our forefather Boaz. When you read into that story, him redeeming that land, you have to go into the story. And you don't hear about too many women in the scriptures like that. It gives you the genealogy of the men. That's why it says Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You know, Abraham had plenty of sons. He had more sons, but the promise went to his son Isaac, and then from Isaac it went to Jacob. It's all about the men, and you rarely even hear about any of the daughters of all the men of God had plenty of daughters, but you rarely hear about them in the scriptures. Like you hear about Dinah, you know what I'm saying? She was one of our sisters, or 4 sisters, so to speak. You hear about her, but as far as the lineage that goes through to carry on this lineage and ethnicity all the way through to the time period that we're in right now, it goes by men, man. It's common sense too. Let me jump to verse 18. As a matter of fact, see right here, it mentions all the tribes right here. All those men. You got the first, it starts with the tribe of Reuben. You got Simeon, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Benjamin, Dan, Asher, Gad, Naphtali. And see, those are the men. Why isn't it mentioning the sister? Why isn't Dinah in there? See? As a matter of fact, let's get to the point. Verse 18. It says, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees. What is a pedigree? Your ancestry, your family tree, your lineage. And they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. See? Not by the house of your mothers, man. According to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. So that's the point that I wanted to make. Now, these other nations, you know, they all off as hell anyway. They can do what they want to do. They can say what they want to say. When it comes to us, the Hebrew Israelites, we go by the scriptures. Let the Lord be true and every man a liar, man. Because these people, Esau, man, hey, this is the same man that's telling you that a man can be with a man. This is the same guy that's telling you that a woman can be with a woman. I was just looking at an article earlier where two women are together and they both had what's that the IVF, I think it's called. Both of them got, you know, basically got some sperm from the same dude, but one of them is playing the dude in the family. But they both got, you know, sperm from one guy, so both of them pregnant at the same time. Damn near had the babies at the same time. But why couldn't they get together and have babies? Why couldn't that woman get on top of that woman and produce a child? Why did they need to go to a man to get his sperm for? Because they understand that you can only have birth through a man and a woman. It takes that seed. It takes that seed being placed into that egg, that earth, that grounding, man. But see, this is Esau, Edom's kingdom, and he got all kinds of weird shit going on, man. And he got people out here really believing that you can be 2% this, 13% that, 27% this, 18% that. And all of a sudden, you just this smorgasbord of all these goddamn people on the earth. No, man, it don't go like that. It goes by your dad, man. Can't express that enough. And we have to do lessons on this, you know, and, you know, it gets repetitious sometimes, but hey, there's a lot of newcomers that's coming into this truth that don't know these facts. There's no such thing as biracial, multiracial, and mixed, man. You got to get that shit out of your brain and your butt. See, all this Western stuff that we've ever learned, when you come into this truth, you gotta erase all that shit. You have to know that you've been completely lied to. It's just like the movie The Matrix. And I would suggest, you know, if you've watched The Matrix, watch it again. That's a movie that you should probably watch once a month. I really gotta say, man, you know what I'm saying? Or at least once a year, once every 5 to 6 months, whenever. But throw that boy in the DVD player if you got it. Because I got it on DVD. I had to buy it, man. Because that movie, it gives you an illustration as to, okay, what's real and not real. Once you come into this truth and you're going into what's real, now you taking that rib, and you're going to take that pill, you can stay where you are. But if you take that pill and you dive into this rabbit hole, what you're going to see is what the scriptures are saying is totally different from what the world is saying and everything that you've ever learned from birth all the way through, man. Here you go. You can be out here living. It's brothers coming into this truth. I think I came into this truth. I'm not sure how old I was. But let's just say, for example, you got men that are coming into this truth at the age of 25, 30. Some men could be even 50. Oh, it's lucky my battery about to die. I'm going to end out here soon. But just think, they've been walking the earth for 35 years, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years, whenever the Lord clicked them on and awakened them. All that other time, they've been in the matrix. They've been out here living a complete damn lie. Then all of a sudden, the Lord, he just plunk. Something kicks in you. The spirit kicks in you. And all of a sudden, you're awakened. It's just like that movie, The Matrix, man, when they unplugged, you know, they was in them pods and he slid down that hookup. And it looked all disgusting and nasty as hell, but it was a good movie. You know, he had to go off in there, you know, he kind of got uploaded, you know, and it's kind of spiritual in that sense, too, because they plugged him in. He was learning judo and kung fu and all this other shit, but he was relearning. They had to tell him about what really happened, what was going on, you know what I'm saying? You know, the differences in this particular life that he was living and the one that he's living now. You had the one guy, he wanted to go back into the world. after being awakened. The one guy that sold them all out, I don't know if you remember that part in the movie. He was like, oh, yeah, man, I don't want to remember anything. Just put me back in. Because he was bored with, and that's spiritual because you got men that's in this truth. They come into this truth, they get bored. Oh, man, this ain't what I signed up for, man. I miss going out. I miss the girl. I miss the smoke. I miss the party, and I miss having fun. This is not fun. You know, hey, it's not about being fun, man. Hey, this is serious business, man. You had all that goddamn, you done had all kinds of silly ass fun that got you nowhere. Here you go. The Lord is bringing you into the truth, opening your eyes to the real truth of this thing, and you're just saddened by it because it's not a fun to you. You even have people that say, oh, it sounds like the kingdom gonna be boring. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be boring to your ass, to you goddamn carnal sinners, man. You ones that just want to be out here doing whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. To you women that ain't gonna be able to be on goddamn. And matter of fact, you know what? They about to get rid of TikTok too. I think. I think they really gonna go ahead and dismantle TikTok in America. That bill done shot through. And people out here fussing, and mainly it's the women that you see on TikTok. Oh, I'm gonna lose my income. I got business. Yeah. All that your ass is being seen. Ain't gonna be none of that stuff in the kingdom, man. Ain't gonna be no damn Facebook. You think Mark Zuckerberg is going to be before Congress explaining to the people as to how, all your damn information was stolen? No, ain't going to be none of that shit. All that shit going to be shut down. And that shit coming soon. The shutdown is coming soon anyway. It's not going to be, they talking about disinformation. No, ain't going to be no more your information at all, Esau. Nobody's going to be able to hear that you're possibly biracial and you got 20% Irish in you and 10% Chinese and the rest of you is a Mongolian or some crazy shit. Nah, man. we're going to be done with your curriculum, man. Esau, you won't have no curriculum in our system. You just gonna be in chains, and you're gonna be too goddamn tired to even be thinking about trying to come up with a curriculum. You just gonna be put to work, man. And I can't wait. All this silly shit you've been pushing around for all this time. You got people out here believing that a goddamn Santa Claus exists. You got people out here believing in all manner of bullshit. Get the hell out of here, man. But anyway, with that, hey, my phone about to die. But I really wanted to touch on this, man. I do pray that this is edifying, because this is a stumbling block, and this is something that you must know when you come into this truth, man. Straight up. Because you got Negro-only Israelites out here. Oh, well, all the Israelites, they only black. The 12-tribe sign is not true. And all this other different shit, man. So you have to learn these things and learn it properly, so that way when you go on the highways and byways, you start to teach, then you're teaching the proper thing. And you can't just be looking at everybody's skin color, man, and determining, oh, well, you white. Nah. You gotta ask them some questions. Ask them, well, what's your dad? You know what your grandfather is? You're not gonna, you ain't gotta worry about asking them what their grandmama is, even though they might, volunteer the information. But it's mainly gonna, whether they're Israelite or not is gonna be determined as to whether their father or their grandfather is, great grandfather or one of the dads, man. It's gonna go through the man. Simple as that. But anyway, with that, I pray that the lesson was edifying. Kwame Yashala.